All right, we're live for another Keeping It Real, and we're really excited today because we have Greg on again, and I got my co-host Frank on here, Frank Klezet. He's the CEO of Viral Marketing, and Greg is a broker owner of several real estate brokerages in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, and Charleston. And the topic today is how to list and sell more homes, and we're going to really dive in deep, kind of the importance of why it's important to be a listing agent or have a certain percentage of your business as listings and all that. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Frank so he can go ahead and let you know how to get notified on these. And by the way, my name is Jeff Manson. I'm the founder of Real Geeks. If you don't know who I am. Hey, Frank, can you let them know how to get notified on these?
Thanks, Jeff. So I'm Frank. I'm with Viral Marketing. And if you want to watch these shows, they're awesome. Go to keepingitreal.com. We've posted them all there. And there's a couple really great ones where Jeff took a camera crew and went on site actually to Greg's office. Make sure you check that one on there. It's also on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now, I believe. So you can go get it there, get notified. Obviously, it's on YouTube right here on this channel, as well as the Real Geeks Facebook page. And if you put your email address in at keepingitreal.com, you're not going to get anything else. Only when we launch these shows, that's the only email notification you'll get.
Yeah, the only ones you'll get, and also replays when we do a replay. And by the way, if you do tuning in and you got to skip out of here, I'd try and stay on live so you can engage in the Q&A at the end. But if you have to leave, don't worry, we're recording this and we will be sending out a replay as long as you're on our email list. So like I said, we have Greg on here, and Greg disappeared off the camera here for a minute. Hey, Greg.
I was just changing the lighting. I feel like my lights are just blaring in my eyes, but I'm fully engaged, so let's go for it.
All right. So Frank has his team of agents, and they did 817 homes listed in the first quarter of the year. And what I wanted to do is just
Greg did, not me. Greg did, not me.
Yeah. Did I say Greg? Or I did
Frank.
Did I say Frank?
I think you did. It's okay.
I thought I said Greg. But if I said Frank, I don't know. I'm a little dingy, I guess, today. But anyway, forget that. So Greg and his team did 817 listings taken the first quarter. And what I wanted him to dive in first is, wanted to get his take on why he thinks it's important to have a certain percentage of your business as far as listings and listings taken instead of just buyers and buyer-centric business.
Yeah. So, I think what I'll give you a two-part answer. I think the importance is not only having a good portion of your business coming from listing side versus buying side. Like, there should be some sort of balance there, right? And that balance, depending on which coach you talk to, people think that balance should be anywhere at least a 50-50 balance between buyer side and listing side. And then if you're been brought up more from the Mike Ferry side, like I have been, then you may say that this should be a 65% listing side business and a 35% buyer side business. So I don't think that there's a wrong answer. I think that within those that range, I think that it's just up to you and how you want to run your model. So, but I do believe that's important. And unfortunately, a lot of real estate agents and teams and even companies, they're kind of upside down. They'll have 30% of their business coming from listing sides and about 70% of their business as buyer sides. So I think the real importance is not exactly what that ratio is, even though I think you should be in the range of 50 to 65% listings controlled. The importance is really controlling the faucet, controlling your lead flow. And so the people who are doing a little bit more, a heavier, have more listings, or at least a balance between listings and buyers, the listings are where they can control the business more. So then when there's volatility, when there's things that are going on, they can make slight adjustments and maintain their listing inventory. It's harder to make adjustments in shifting times and maintain your buyer transactions. So like, for instance, if we knew, and this is a completely made up number, but if we knew that it took 100 contacts to take one listing, I'm just looking at easy numbers. And then all of a sudden the market shifted and the ratio started slipping, and you realize, gosh, it now takes 120 contacts to get one listing. Well, then all you got to do is do an extra 20 contacts. It's like you can just flip on a switch and make a choice today that I have to put in a little bit extra work, but I can still maintain my business even when the market's shifting. On the flip side, when you're dealing with the buyer side, for the most part, and I'm sure there could be people in the audience that could comment and debate this a little bit, but for the most part, like in order to, if you were getting 100 buyer leads and you were making 5 sales out of 100 buyer leads, and then the market shifts and now all of a sudden there's not as many buyers and now you're only getting 50 buyer leads, then what do you do to get your buyer leads back up to 50? You have to spend more money. So now in order you have to maintain the same amount of business, you have to spend more money. And if the buyer leads are decreasing, it's because the market's shifting. It's usually the time that no one has the money to spend. And so that's where the challenge is when there's a market shift. If you control a certain part of your business is listings, then you control that. Your daily activities can actually help you maintain or grow. The buyer side, it's different because somebody else is sending those leads to you or something else, and your hand's not on that faucet. That's why I think it's important.
Okay, and then we also were diving in a little bit deeper before we came live. You were mentioning also that you thought that the industry as a whole, or agents, to maintain and get more control of their business, they're going to have to start doing more old school tactics and depending less on what they've been depending on as far as the Zillows, the lead gen companies and stuff like that. Can you dive in and give your thought on that a little bit more? Because I think you're pretty right on it.
Yeah, I think that, there was a time where the trend was, let's build crazy websites and do this great SEO and just dominate organic, right? And then now, like, people build websites, they don't even think about SEO, because they don't that's, it's not something that an average real estate agent is doing anymore. Right. So there's trends, right? Things come in and they go out and there's new shiny objects. And if you look at all the shiny objects over the last couple of years have been like, we'll do it for you. We will make the calls for you. We will send the emails for you. We'll actually do the video for you. We'll do it for you. It is do it for you. So what is that? DIFU. So that's instead of like do it yourself, DIY, it should be the do it for you, DIFU. Yeah. So that's the kind of real estate agents we've become. And unfortunately, let's just take the recent situation with Realtor.com. There are agents out there that, have dumped a lot of money into Realtor.com. And listen, I don't spend on Realtor.com, but I don't hate on you if you do. But the challenge is there's a lot of people that said, hey, they can do it for me. They can do the SEO. They can do the lead generation. They can actually just, serve me these opportunities, and I'll just go out and take that handoff, and I'm willing to buy those leads. Well, now all of a sudden, Realtor.com in a lot of markets just sent out notices canceling people's subscriptions and saying, we're no longer going to sell you leads. Now you'll have to go through a different process with OpCity and get your broker to sign a document. And there's all kinds of things that have to happen in order to maybe participate in the referral fee. But people are looking at that and saying, wow, now I'm starting to figure out what happens when I let my lead flow be controlled by a third party. Like, if they want to shut it off, all they have to do is send me an email and say, I'm sorry, it's shut off. So I think people are going to now start to become more aware. It's like, maybe I should be careful, because there may be other lead sources that will follow suit and start shutting off lead flow or making it a little bit more difficult or jacking up the prices, which will probably push people back towards old school. So I believe that the trend, over the next year, we'll see more people getting back into old school strategies.
And when you say old school, do you mean like calling expired listings,
I really mean work. Like, I
work.
mean, like,
they're actually going to start making the phone call.
Okay. Yeah. But if we want to, if we want to define work, then yes, that would be one.
Yeah.
We could call our centers of influence, call our past clients, call expireds and FSBOs and rentbos and for sale by owners, and, and the list goes on and on and on. But what it really comes down to is, like, instead of like, okay, I pay and I wait, it'll be like, hey, I'm not paying because it may never show up. And oh, your wife just showed up back there, but anyways, she's gone. So I think people are going to go back and say, hey, I want to take control a little bit more, and they'll go and start learning their scripts and start prospecting a little bit more. I believe that's what's going to happen.
It's going to force them to get back to work, or otherwise they're going to keep losing control.
Yeah, and and listen, I'm trying to offend the audience. The people that that are out there, myself included, that hired third parties to either help us with leads or help us with other things. We're just being business people, right? We're trying to invest our money, leverage tools, and get a return. I just have believe that the risk of leveraging tools for lead generation gives other people too much power over your business, and that's some of the things that I think we're going to start taking back as an industry.
Right, good deal. All right, let's get back to the 817 listings that your team took.
And that's in my multiple markets, right? So, just for full transparency, that's in multiple markets. Yeah. But I track listings taken, listings. I track so many numbers every Tuesday. I get this whole volume of numbers that I evaluate, and I just happen to see, wow, man, we took 816 listings that quarter. That wasn't that bad. It wasn't like that was a new revelation for us. That was pretty flat for us compared to the same quarter in 2018. So I'm kind of discouraged that it wasn't a higher number, but it is I thought a pretty big number.
I think it's a pretty big number, especially the amount of deals per agent that you have doing that. The effectiveness, and for people that are just tuning in or haven't seen the one I went on location that Frank talked about, you should really go find the one when I went live into Greg's office. And if you want to find out what a prospecting machine and listing machine looks like, and lead gen machine looks like, you should go watch that. So what are the 3 or 4 things that you and your agents focus on every month to get that kind of effectiveness and those kind of results?
Number one, I'm just kind of writing. I just wrote down number 1 and 2. Third one will come up as we talk probably. But the first one that I wrote was showing up. I want to I want to really be as honest as I can, and my ego doesn't need this to sound sexy. Right. I want to be real. Just keeping it real, right?
Keeping it real.
I think one of the significant things was showing up every day to lead generate.
So the consistency of doing it every day, no matter what.
Yes, you got to show up to blow up, right? You've got to show up. Okay. And though that sounds like so basic, what does that mean? That means show up at like 7:30 a.m. Show up at 7:45 a.m. Actually, no. Show up at like 5 a.m. at the gym and get your energy going. And then while you're driving home, show up on podcasts and listen to Keeping It Real or My Level Up podcast or all the great podcasts that are out there and get your mind going. And then, kiss your spouse and your children and, watch them go off to school, and then get your butt in the office at 7:45 and have a lot of energy and have your mindset crisp and start generating at 8 a.m. In my state, you can generate at 8 a.m. So some states it might be a little bit later. So follow the rules, but start generating at 8 a.m. And like, that is one of those things that when I walk into my office and I look in that room where all these agents are and I see empty spots, I know that those people are not showing up. And I also know what's going to happen to their numbers if they don't show up. And I also know what's going to happen to our numbers if agents are consistently not showing up. So that's very significant, because me as a leader, I have to be an example of what it means to show up. So I better be showing up. I need to, go ahead and hold them accountable, not because I'm trying to boss them. No, because we all need accountability, and showing up for most agents at 7:45, 8 a.m. in the morning, showing up is not an easy thing to do in this industry.
Yeah,
and the reason why it's not easy is because all of our friends and family members know that we don't have a time clock to punch. So we're the ones that they feel that they can call to go bring them breakfast at school. Like if we had a time clock and our family or friends knew at 8 o'clock, at 8:01 I'm late, then our friends wouldn't ask us to do things. at that time. But because everybody knows we don't really have a time clock, so then we just invite all these distractions. That's why I say showing up's number one, because even though it sounds simple, it is one of the most difficult things that I see agents complete.
And then once you're there,
Consistency.
Greg, how many
Yes.
people a day or how many people a week does your median agent speak to? So once you're showing up, you got to talk to people.
Yeah. So number 2 on the list would be making
Right.
contacts.
Right.
Okay. So showing up now, Frank, you're talking about contacts. So making contacts. So we know rule of thumb. Mike Ferry has said this for years. You should be able to make 10 contacts an hour if you're dialing from a manual phone. Okay. That's you follow a script, you ask questions, and you don't talk about people's, dogs and grandchildren and extend the conversation beyond the business conversation. You should be able to talk to 10 people an hour. Now, if you're working dialers and whatnot, then maybe, yes, you can talk to more because there's some efficiencies there. So if you were going to generate for 3 hours and you just, rule of thumb, contacted 10 people an hour, then it's 30 contacts a day.
Yeah, that was
now. Some people are going to have bigger goals. I've got agents that that they will do that every day, but then or 4 days a week, and then one day there's a group that come in and every Tuesday they're doing all day prospecting every day or every Tuesday. So then their average number of contacts is going to be higher on a weekly basis because there's going to be one day they're going to prospect for maybe 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah, and
now their goals for growth are a lot bigger, so they're going to go ahead and remember that when you're building a business like this, you can kind of control your result. You can control the way your business goes. So they have bigger goals. So the way they can control that is add an all-day prospecting day every Tuesday, so they get their contacts up, which means they'll get their listings up.
All right. So the first thing, they have to show up and do it consistently.
Yeah.
And with a purpose, correct?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
And
when I was coaching with Mike years ago, and this was when I was a coach for Mike, I'm still in Mike's coaching program, but when I was a coach for Mike, it was interesting. We would have clients tell us, or they would call Mike or whoever, maybe whoever the coach's boss was at that time. I think it was Tom Ferry was my superior at the moment when I was there. And they would call them, right? And these would be clients say, you know what? My coach told me I would do 50 deals and I only did 40. I want a refund. and I mean, they probably had calls like this all the time. Well, we were prepped for those dialogues, right? Mike would prep us for those conversations. And what he always did is, I remember him telling us, hey, go to their numbers analyzer and look at your business plan. And the business plan, when we looked at it, it would say they have to work 220 days. Well, let's see how many days they actually worked, 180. Well, and out of the 220 days, they had to make 20 contacts a day. So whatever that equaled, it couldn't have been that because they only worked 180 days. So then that means they would have had 3,600 contacts instead of maybe whatever that other number would have been. Okay. Right. And then we looked at the percent of time that they didn't work. So, like they missed 15%. Their actual was 15% lower than their budgeted, than their planned. Well, then we looked at the number of transactions that they did. And guess what happened? Within a few basis points, the percent of time that they missed was the same percent of transaction that they missed. So then we would just simply say, look, we promised you would do this business if you did this plan. You didn't do this plan, so you can't blame us for not doing this business. Showing up matters.
Totally. All right. So what do you have for number 2? Or do you have some, Frank?
I want to ask about that numbers analyzer. What are the key things on that for the audience?
Yeah, gosh, I haven't looked at that one for a while, but it's days worked. How many days you're going to work? Like we got to log how many days we're going to work, right? And then hours prospected, contacts made, appointments set.
Taken.
Yeah, we track appointments gone on, and then listings taken. That's an important ratio, by the way. We ought to do something on numbers, because I could really slow down the conversation and like break down every ratio and really share what the importance is. I'll do it as an example right now. Is like you got listing appointment set, listings gone on, and listings taken. Most people don't calculate the listings gone on, because the listing appointment set and listings gone on will probably be a lower number, meaning listings gone on. Because when you pre-qualify them, there could be some things that come up and you decide not to go. You identify that their motivation isn't there. So you really need to know that number, because if that number is high, then the problem is that, well, while you're prospecting, you seem to mark too many people down as an appointment, but you never go on those appointments. So why don't we skip that whole darn process and do better at the initial conversation, so we never set those appointments? So those are like important ratios. And then for listings taken, and then listings sold, price reductions. Price reductions is a critical one, especially in a declining market. Not that we're there today, but I've been in declining markets where it took an average of like 2.5 price reductions to make a sale. Like, that's how aggressive the market was going down. And so I knew that when I got listings, I had to plan and build in into the schedule 2.5 price reductions for every transaction. But then if I wanted to do 200 transactions, then I could just take 200 times 2.5, and it tells me, as long as I reach this price reduction goal, I'm actually going to do these transactions. So those are probably some of the key indicators. There's probably a few more that I've just neglected.
We'll have to do another one on numbers, maybe even a business planning one. Business planning and numbers, right? And the importance of the numbers. We could do that maybe in October, or when they should be starting to think about that.
Yeah, I think internalizing and understanding what the ratios mean, like tracking your numbers is one thing, but I think a lot of people they don't see tracking as that important. And I think it's not because they don't think it's important, they don't know what to do with the numbers. Okay, here's my numbers. I made 5,000 contacts, or I did this, I did that. Like, they don't know that if I was going to see your numbers and you said, okay, I prospected for 15 hours, then I know that you should have 150 contacts. 150 times 10 contacts per hour is 150. So if you've got 70 contacts and you're telling me that you prospected for 15 hours, then I know a few things are going on. Number one, you're taking too many potty breaks, which is a creative way to avoid doing the activity. I'm not kidding on that. Or you're actually talking too long on the phone after you've already identified somebody's not a candidate for doing business. Now, on the flip side, if you said I prospected 15 hours and you told me you had 220 contacts and you are manually dialing, then I know that now what you're doing is you're doing this. You've got what we call a case of contactitis. You're like, hey, Frank, it's Greg. You don't want to sell, do you? Okay, thanks, bye. Hey, you don't want to sell. Okay, thanks, bye. Hey, you don't want to sell, do you? Okay, thanks, bye. And they're just logging contact after contact after contact, not asking any questions, taking their time, digging deep into the script, right? So that's the importance of the numbers you have to know all of that for you to really get excited about tracking numbers. Because when you know that this ratio means this, then you know what activity changes that ratio.
Exactly.
Greg, I got a question for you. So you probably have individuals watching this that are at home, maybe laying in bed in their home office, or they're in the corner.
Jealous.
Okay, just hear me out. They're in their backyards, their pools.
Yeah.
All right, they're in a brokerage that nobody makes calls.
Yeah,
and just the environment is just not conductive to going and doing that. Now, you built a wonderful floor with stand-up desks, music going on. Like, be real with a human behavior activity. We have a big human behavior change to be able to speak to 20, 30 people a day.
Yes.
Just saying, oh, I'm going to go do that now is like saying, oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and work out 7 days a week and eat right all the time, which logically makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
Can you go a little bit deeper on the behavior changes you have to take from somebody who comes to work with you to actually get that done?
Well, so it's easy for me at this stage, right? Because if you come into my office to work with me, everyone researches everybody on Google. Okay. So by the time somebody actually says knocking on my door or, agrees to meet with me, to work with me, they already kind of know what they're up for. So maybe I'm in a little different situation from that standpoint. Does that make sense, Frank?
It
But
makes sense. I just say, how do you, I want to make 20, 30 calls a day. Like, how do I adjust my behavior to actually do this?
yeah, so, I think it's such a brilliant question. So, because it is this, well, it's just so significant, what this
Yeah.
dialogue. First of all, let me say this. Look, I didn't build what I built for all these agents to do well. That wasn't what I was thinking 20 years ago. I built what I had and started building it 20 years ago to protect me from me. See, this business that I have started with me, and a lot of people will know a guy named Greg Sisson. Me and Greg, I remember I'm sitting here prospecting because my dad made me. And then all of a sudden, Greg came on to the team, and then he and I started prospecting together. And then we held each other accountable and made sure that we showed up and we did this, right? And then I added somebody else to the team. And then all of a sudden, I became responsible for being an example. What I was really doing is building in an environment that I would go into, and it would force me to do the things that my butt probably would have been too lazy to do. People say, well, Greg, you are freaking intense. You are disciplined. I said, no, I'm not that disciplined. You guys you just are always in conversation with me about real estate. So I believe I'm an authority in real estate. So I am intense because I believe I'm an authority. And I am extremely disciplined in real estate because I have an army that if I don't show up, they will just ridicule me and tell me I'm a loser. But you take me out of the real estate space, and then I might just hang out and I just chill. I might not show up. So I think there's some significance there that you have to find somebody that's willing to do these things either beside you or Jeff Quinton, for instance. Gosh, I remember rolling into the gym at parking lot at 4:45, calling Jeff Quinton in Jersey. Hey, Jeff, I'm at the gym. All right, I am too. Okay, call me when you're when you're done. And then I'd call him when I was done, and we'd role play on the way to home. And then we would text each other or maybe call each other or commit to how many contacts we were going to make that day. And then we would tell each other just real quick, hey, I just want to let you know I made 65 contacts this morning, and he would tell me, and then move on. And that was every single day. Like having an accountability partner, like it's just like, I want to lose 30 pounds today. Well, you're going to lose it 1 pound at a time. And the more likely that you get a partner that's going to go and meet you at the gym, the more likely, if you do that, then you're going to have a better chance at losing that pound or losing that weight. It's the same thing with prospecting and generating. For those people that are out there, I think this is necessary to be involved, and you either need to create the environment within the company that you work for, or you need to start looking for accountabilities in other companies outside of your market, possibly, that have similar activities, and create a virtual accountability over the phone. Or, you need to make some business decisions and put yourself in an environment where you can, it'll support this activity. But not doing this activity is going to continue to get you what you've got. And as long as you're happy with that, then you don't need to make any change. Because if you want more, you're going to have to actually change something.
I think I just have to speak to the ego that probably takes a hit when you realize, like, how many agents come to you, Greg, competing with you, but they're not making any money. And they finally, I'm going to go talk to Greg, probably pay more of a split to Greg, but I need the environment, even though I should rationally be able to do it on my own.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's everything in life.
I know.
I mean, that's everything in life. Like, I mean, everything in life is that way. Like there's always a cheaper solution. But it usually comes with a lesser result. And so people are not like, I think, what you just demonstrated is like, oh my gosh, I've got to walk in with my tail, between my legs. Yeah, right. And I think they should be like walking up strong and saying, I'm finally taking charge of my life. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. I think this is taking charge of your life, because like what look at what we're talking about, showing up and like doing a little bit of work. Well, like where else, the same people that are having a hard time doing this in their real estate business, those same characteristics are probably showing up in other areas of their life. And like, so when I'm training people to do these things, you know, people will, you know, that have been here for years, they're like, yeah, I remember when I first came to Greg's office, and, you know, it's like, I went to him because I really wanted to build a real estate career. And what I figured out a few years later is I actually started enjoying my life. I thought I was going there to build a real estate career. And what I actually got was a life full of joy. Because the disciplines that we were following inside of our real estate practice translated to everything.
Totally.
That's pretty deep, probably. We could go deeper, but we might lose everybody on that one.
All right. That was an amazing question and great answer there, Greg. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
What was the second thing you had wrote down on the things that you focused on? It
was generating contacts. So showing up, generating contacts. Okay. And I would say the third thing was the resisting the co-mingling of activities between 8 and 11. Meaning, like, okay, you get people show up. All right, I'm showing up, checking in, getting ready to do some lead generation. 8 o'clock. 8:15 comes along, and all of a sudden you see them checking their text. And they check their text and they realize a deal just fell through. Like, this is the worst case scenario, right? A deal just fell through. That right there will pretty much eliminate their the rest of the time of lead generation. Now, what they do, though, what an agent will do is they'll look at that, oh my gosh, and they put their phone back down and they try to stay focused. I'm going to continue making some more contacts. And then they look at the text again 10 minutes later. And then all of a sudden they go to the bathroom because they feel like, oh, I just need a little break, because their stress levels are higher, because their mind's going crazy about this lost income that they were planning on spending on this that they don't have anymore. And all this is going on. And then they stay there, though. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to stand up, or they're going to stay in their position until 11 o'clock. But when you really look at what they accomplished between 8 and 11, they probably did 30 minutes of lead generation, but they fooled themselves in feeling like they actually did 3 hours just because they were standing or sitting in that one area. You've got to actually stop commingling tasks. Say this all the time with agents that are wanting to grow, and they're like wanting to grow, and they're saying, well, I prospect every day from 8 to 11. Really? Okay. Well, how about this? Or I won't tell them this, but I used to have a stopwatch hanging on my station. And there were times where I would take that stopwatch and I would just observe some agent that's complaining that they're not getting the results that they want, but they're putting in all the effort. And I would actually hit the stopwatch on when they were actually doing lead generation activities. And then when I saw that they got distracted, walked away to go to the copy machine or something like that, I would take the stopwatch off. And then after 3 hours, I'd walk up and say, hey, how many contacts did you make? Well, I made, 18 contacts in 3 hours. We know that number's too low, right? Okay. Right. So what's going on? I mean, how long did you prospect? No, I mean, prospected for 3 hours. There's just not a lot of people answering the phone. Oh, really? You prospected for 3 hours, huh? Probably the wrong answer, because I got the stopwatch.
How many dials do you think it would take to get 30 contacts?
You're probably going to get 20% of the people to contact. Yeah, and that number's probably going down now. Yeah. So I remember it was probably 23, 25. It might be 18%. I probably have that ratio, within our company, but I know it was over 20, but between 20 and 25, I would say it might be even as low as 18% right now.
I got a question. How many agents do you have, Greg?
With the new acquisition, I just added like 90. So it's probably 180 something, maybe 184.
They're all following this plan. This is what they say.
No. They're not all making calls. Absolutely not. There are people now in my companies, especially when I do acquisitions, right? When I'm doing acquisition, I'm acquiring agents that may have, like I've acquired one company, their entire company was trained on Buffini. And I'm not anti-Buffini. I think Buffini's got some fantastic tools, in the Sphere space, right? And so that company is very strong on Sphere. So now I'm bringing a little bit more of that Mike Ferry twist and enhancing what I think that what they already have and enhancing it with a little bit more outbound. They can still do their pop buys, but now what if we actually start doing the outbound calling to that same list? And we're starting to now see. So it's a slow transition, but there could be people that work just buyers. Now, those people that are only working buyers, which I have many agents that will only work buyer leads, they don't even take listings. Not that they couldn't, they just claim that they're a buyer's agent. That's what they love to do. So what they're doing from 8 to 11 is they're going in their real geeks. I mean, it's like anybody that comes to my office in the morning, you can just look at all the buyer's agents. First thing they do is fire up Real Geeks, and they're in the back end of Real Geeks, and they're looking at all these, these lists of people, and they're just calling them from 8 to 11. So I won't call that cold call because these are people in the CRM, the Real Geeks CRM already. So the agents themselves in my world, I wouldn't say, I shouldn't say I allow. They can build their business however they want to build their business. I'm their coach. I set up all the systems, and there's times where people maybe they don't want to do outbound prospecting, but I will show them how to actually do some sort of outbound to enhance whatever they are doing. For example, somebody likes to do a bunch of open houses. Well, and we just recently, said, okay, well, how about we do X amount of open houses in this one market on this one weekend? And then I created an open house domination plan that was 2 weeks prior to the open house. And a part of that plan not only was door knocking a few days before and the morning of, but it was actually a call to invite everyone to the open house plan. So you could see how I would take somebody that likes to do an open house, and then I would add on additional things that they can do that's really outbound prospecting, layer that on top of an activity, and and the results of that activity are improved.
Cool.
All right. Anything else that you guys focused on to help generate or get those results?
I mean, we're with as many contacts as that we're making and the environment, there's always role playing and
Sure.
and practicing of scripts. So yeah, you've got to, real estate is a game of confidence, and you gain confidence when you actually are more comfortable in the conversation. And you get comfortable in the conversation when you've repeated and practiced the conversation over and over and over again. So role playing makes you comfortable in the conversation. And when you're comfortable in the conversation, you gain confidence. And when you gain confidence, buyers are really, or sellers are really hiring somebody. They're hiring confidence. Real estate's a game of confidence. If you're the most confident agent and it's not an ego, a feel of like crazy ego, then you're probably going to be the one that's hired. So we know that. So confidence is comfort in the conversation, which comes from role playing. So yes, they're role playing and practicing their scripts, listening to videos that I'm doing exclusively for my agents, and constantly involved in learning. But that's
Awesome.
it. That's the basics, guys.
That's basics.
I mean, I'd be making up a bunch of stuff if we keep going on and trying to add to the list. It's showing up, make your damn contacts, stop co-mingling, do your damn job, and role play.
Awesome. So let's shift into what are the 5 top sources for getting listings for your team, and how do you work them?
Yeah, it would be expireds, FSBOs, just sold, centers of influence, and past clients. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that ended up being 5. Yeah, I'd say FSBOs, expireds, just sold, centers of influence, past clients. Yeah.
All right.
That would be the 5.
Let's start off with expires, because expires are going to start increasing.
Should be.
They should be eventually. So what does your average agent do that works the expired? So I mean, what can you go through exactly how, like, maybe somebody's watching has never worked expired. They're like, hey, we're telling them work expires, but they have no clue. And I bet the majority of them, people watching, have not worked expired. So how would that look?
Yeah, I mean, usually in any market, any MLS, there's an expired list is published around 12:01 a.m. So it depends on where you are. You can hire technology to pull up the expireds for you. There's plenty of companies, the RedX, Landvoice, Vulcans, and I'm sure there's tons more out there that'll pull up the expires and hand deliver you all the information electronically, by 6:30 in the morning. That'd be an option.
Sure.
You can go in and take a less expensive route and just manually look them up and pull the expireds from the MLS, then go to the courthouse records to find their information, at least their address, and then go to some other service, to look up their telephone number and then give them a call, and you can go to many websites. Probably, I know Mike Ferry, you can download his scripts, for free. Then he's got expired scripts. He's got a script for everything for free, and that's what we do. I mean, it's as I describe this, I'm like, gosh, can I reinvent a sexier way to do this? And the answer is no.
I'm not asking you to reinvent. I want you to keep real. I mean,
that's it.
I know how to work all these. I've been doing it for years, but I know that a lot of the agents don't know how to get started, don't know what to say. So they go in the morning, they get those new expireds, they call them. Obviously, they try to get a hold of them and get them on an appointment. Mm-hmm. Let's say they get a nasty person, and because there's going to be some people trying. They're not really nasty people. They're just trying to get you off the phone because all of a sudden they got all these agents freaking calling them, right?
Yeah.
So you call them, and then if you don't get an appointment, what do your top agents do?
They call them again.
The next day.
I mean, so they call them and talk to them and don't get an appointment?
Correct.
Yeah, they call them again probably in that later on that day. That expired's going to have so many phone calls that day, they're not going to ever know who they talk to. So like you could call an expired in most markets and say, hey, my name's Greg Harrelson, and the full company name. And then by the time, 10 minutes goes after, I've hung up and they've gotten 2 or 3 more calls, they can't remember who they talked to. So you could actually call somebody and then talk to them again in that afternoon and potentially set an appointment with them. That happens all the time. So usually an expired, there a high percentage of expireds are going to go back on the market. There's no question about it. It's just in the beginning, these expireds are kind of taken back because of all the calls. So they say a few things. We call it their scripts. The expireds have scripts themselves, and they say these things to us over and over again, knowing that 90% of the time the agent will go away. Like an example of one would be,
just taking it off the market would be one.
Yeah. So you're taking it off the market. Well, fantastic. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, if it would have sold last week, where would you be moving?
Oh, we would be moving to LA.
Okay.
Now we just decided to take off the market because it's just crazy. I don't know if we can get a price or whatever.
Right. But you're still probably going to move to LA, correct?
Well, I mean, I guess we would if we could get it sold, but we're kind of tired of this whole process.
I don't blame you. Tired of
on the market for 6 months and open houses and, I don't know. We're just kind of frustrated with the whole thing. And now we got all these damn agents calling.
Exactly. Back to California, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, what's drawing you out to California anyways?
Well, I had a job promotion to relocate there with my company to go to LA. You
didn't lose that, did you?
Well, no, it's still hanging around, but I don't know if,
Is it going to benefit you and your family financially? Is that why you're tempted to take it?
Well, yeah, it's a promotion. Yeah, I'm going to get like 20-25% more income.
Yeah, I'm sure your wife's probably happy about that, assuming you got a spouse, but spouse might be happy with that. So, I mean, are you to the point now you're willing to give up that opportunity that you haven't? I mean, let me ask you this. If you could get to California and there wasn't a big hassle, you didn't have to experience what you experienced for the last 6 months over the next, say, month or two, and you could have your property and get to California, get your family settled and experience that 20 to 25% increase in pay, I'm assuming you would sell, right? It'd be like, for instance, if I brought you an offer right now at an acceptable price, you would probably accept it, right? Assuming all the terms met your...
Of course, yeah.
Okay,
of course
good.
We would.
Yeah, and I'm not going to promise I can do that, but I can promise one thing. I have no chance of doing that if I don't see your property and do my research to identify what the heck went wrong. Let me come over around 3 o'clock today, unless 4 is better, and take a look at your property. Would 3 be okay or 4 be better?
So you really think you could sell our home?
I haven't seen your home yet, so I'm not going to make that promise because, see, people making promises before they did all their due diligence is probably why you got in the situation you were. So I'm not going to put you in the same position. I'm going to come over, take a look at the property. If I feel like I can sell it, I'm going to tell you. If I feel like I can't sell it, I'm going to tell you. Either way, I'll be upfront. Does that sound fair enough?
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Everybody says, yeah, that sounds fair. Nobody can actually say it doesn't sound fair, because when I say, is that fair enough? They would it would be slapping me in my face if they said what I just said wasn't fair. It's not natural. You have to say it's fair. So I got
another one, because I used to call expireds every day. Another one would be like, hey, Greg, you know what? I think we're just going to take it off the market for a while, and we're going to do some repairs and fix it up, because we kept getting feedback that, it wasn't in the best condition. So we're probably going to get off, fix it up, and then probably go back on the market later.
Yeah, no, and you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I haven't seen your home, so I can't, I can only assume that that's probably the right strategy. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, how much money are you prepared to invest in fixing the property up? This screws up their world right here. I'm telling you, I just screwed up their world. How much money are you prepared to invest in order to fix it up?
I don't know. A small percentage if we can definitely get it sold.
Yeah, I mean, 20,000, 30,000. How much are you thinking?
10 or 15 in paint and maybe some flooring.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I really think that you may be making a good move. That might be, because it's very important that you really have the property looking good. But if I could help you kind of minimize that cost to make sure that you're only doing the things that's really going to make a difference, and prevent you from spending $10,000, $15,000 on things that are not going to make a difference. In other words, I could show you kind of a cost versus value analysis on different types of repairs. If I could share that with you, help you save some money on the repairs, and ultimately get your property sold when you're ready, would you at least give me 10, 15 minutes to take a look at the house?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would. So I would do exactly the same thing you did. I would, build some credibility, like, hey, I sell homes all the time. I know exactly what needs to be done to maximize your percentage. And that's exactly why you and I need to get together, Greg. Do you have 15 minutes today? I can come over and share exactly what you need to do to get the highest return on your money.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair? Something
Sounds
like that. Perfect, right?
The other one, and maybe we get off on expires, get into something else, but the other one that people are afraid of is like, why didn't you show my property was on the market? So give me that one.
Exactly. Oh, okay. Greg, I got all these agents calling, and none of them have showed my home. Did you show my home when it was on the market?
I don't think so. I mean, and Jeff, do you mind if I'm just like completely honest with you about something?
Well, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. Truthfully, I didn't even know your property was on the market until it went off the market. And that may be that may be a significant problem. You see, there's 10,000 properties in the MLS for sale. And as a real estate professional, I am never going to memorize all 10,000 properties. I'm never going to be able to show all 10,000 properties ever. And what ends up happening is I tend to show the properties where the listing agent did some marketing of that property, sent that to me, and got it on my radar. And then I put that on the list of must show. I don't know what your agent did or didn't do, but I just don't recall seeing anything on your property.
So you don't recall seeing anything getting sent to you or anything?
I personally don't. As I said, I didn't really know much about your property until it fell off the market. But now that I've looked at your printout, I actually am quite surprised the property didn't sell. Tell me, why do you think it didn't sell?
I don't know. I don't think you did enough.
The significance of this is not the significance of this conversation is not what transpires from this moment on. The significance of this role play was instead of trying to say, yeah, I showed it, or I didn't show it because I only focus on my listings. I'm like, no, I didn't show it. And let me tell you the truth. I didn't even know about it until I fell off the market. That was the truth.
Right.
But there are other properties that I don't have listed that I do know about because that agent blows me up and sends me a text with a video on the property, sends me an email with this property. I remember those properties. But this one wasn't one of them. So don't blame me for not actually coming over. Maybe what we need to do is look at what kind of marketing plan we need to put in place to make sure that every agent knows about your property the next time it goes on the market.
Exactly. All right, cool. And then what about FSBOs? I know. Were you going to say something, Frank?
No.
Okay. All right. And then so FSBOs would be another one. What do you all do to work FSBOs?
We just call them right off the internet. I mean, you can, they're all on Zillow, right? You can just go to Zillow,
Sure.
start calling them. You got owners.com for sub. There's all kinds, or there's paid services out there. Same ones that'll give you expired. So we'll give you the FSBO information and just kind of lay it up. And we just make our calls and follow the Mike Ferry scripts. And, and just, the key with FSBOs is in my opinion, FSBOs is all about rapport. It's like
Yes.
the rapport. People who can master the building of rapport, they're the ones that just really lock up those for sale owners. Because for sale owners are going to list at some point, assuming they don't sell. They're going to list at some point, and then they're going to list with the people that have followed up with them the most. But that might be 2 or 3 weeks to 4 weeks of follow-up that you have to do.
Or 2 months.
Or 2 months, right? So in order to stay in the game and follow up, and they continue to take your calls for a month or 2 months, you have to have built rapport. So our focus on for sale by owners is to build rapport. And, like in the beginning, when I'm striking up a conversation, or I'm not personally calling for sale by owners, but what I would be training my agents to do is when they're striking up conversations with for sale by owners, it's not about, hey, let me share with you why, I need to list this property and you need to stop wasting your time. Like that's just the wrong approach.
No. Yeah.
Totally. It's like, hey, look, I can appreciate you're thinking about selling it, that you're attempting to sell it on your own, and then see if you can actually assist them in selling it on their own. Like your goal should be to come up with ideas on how you can help for sale by owners sell on their own, and go talk to every for sale by owner and tell every for sale by owner, here's what you need to do. Like you should find all the emails for real estate agents, create a beautiful flyer, and you should actually send it to all the real estate agents and ask and tell them you'll pay a co-broke commission. You should actually go to a mortgage lender and ask the mortgage lender to if they're willing to pre-qualify all the buyers that you actually get, or if they're even willing to allow them to advertise the mortgage person's telephone number so the buyer calls straight to the mortgage company and actually, has them pre-qualified before they go look at the property. Here's a sample Craigslist ad that you should run. Here's a this, here's a that, and just cough up all that information on the front end. And guess what? You may talk to 100 for sale by owners this year, hopefully more. Let's just assume you talk to 100. You may help 3 or 4 of them sell. But the ones that don't sell will really appreciate what you did.
20 to 30 of those.
That's right.
If you do that.
That's right.
Give a lot of value up front, build that rapport, treat them with respect.
FSBOs is all about reciprocity. If you will approach it with the giving mentality, but still be salesperson, still be real estate professional. We're not trying to say we're not going to go in and ask for the business. No, ask for the business, but come from that give. Like, that, what's that? Jab, 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 right hook from Vaynerchuk.
Gary V.
Go give that type of mentality is how you win over for sale owners.
And another way to keep in touch with them and keep that rapport, because it is tough. I used to work FSBOs, and I wish I would have had a Real Geek site or a solution like that when I had that with the FSBOs. One thing you can do is say, hey, I got a lot of homeowners just like you trying to sell their homes that have asked me or allow me to keep them updated on the market and what's going on. I can set you up on my website on a market report or, email alert or whatever, and it'll send you anytime there's a new listing, when there's a price change, when something goes under contract, or when it sells. So that way what's going on in the marketplace. I can go ahead and set you that up on that website or on my website, so you get all that, so you know what the competition is doing. Would you like me to set you up on that as well? So I know agents that are doing that, and then they're setting their own alerts up. They have their own alert, and then they put I think you and I even discussed this or came up with this plan, and then they have like FSBO or F dash in their address or their name, and when they get that alert, they call that person and say, hey, by the way, did you just see that price reduction over on 123 Main Street? They just reduced their price. I sent that to you. I just wanted to make sure you got that today. Or did you see that one that sold, whatever. And that gives you something to talk about the market plus all the other stuff doing. I mean, who are they going to go to?
I think we created a document, a best practices. I think you put that in the Real Geek documents. It's in the Real Geek docs.
Yeah. It's in the we got one of the same kind of thing for FSBO or expired. As well.
That's right. I remember that.
We got some questions.
Okay, cool.
I have a question for you, Greg. I think it's more of a higher. You're kind of running a team, but from a phone system standpoint of inspecting what you expect, where someone's like, man, I really need some coaching and feedback on my calls.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any is there like call through a system where somebody could monitor or whisper or listen in? Like, is there some way where, like, do you have all your agents calling through a specific phone system where you have like where you can actually see how many dials, how many contacts across the whole company?
Yep.
Is there any technology that you would
there's
recommend?
tons of technology. I mean, Mojo itself will do that. I've used a company called 5.9. Now that's something that's custom built out. So, that's not going to be for a single real estate agent. That'd be more for a company to do it company wide, and that's what we did. But I think I don't personally use Mojo, but I'm sure that Mojo has that some of those analytics, as well as some sort of recording device where you can listen to some of your record your conversations. But I mean, listen, the role playing is the way to go. Like when I'm teaching somebody how to, we have this thing that, you have to be script certified within our company to make outbound calls. Okay. So, and when I talk to them about script certification, when I'm training them on scripts, what I'm telling them to do is you read the scripts, you write the scripts, you read the scripts, you write the scripts, then you chant the scripts in a recorder. And then you go to your car as you're driving and you listen to yourself reading the scripts. Okay. And you do that listen to it for 3 days. Then go back, read the scripts, write the scripts, read the scripts, write the scripts, record it again. For 3 more days, listen to the second recording. Repeat that process 5 times. I lost 99% of the audience right there, because that's really tough, because it's a boring process. It seems dumb. I shouldn't have to do this. Repeat that damn process 5 times. What's going to happen every time you listen to the recording, the first time you're going to listen to it, oh, I sound so canned. This is terrible. I hate doing this. The second time, ugh, I don't sound that good. Difference than I'm terrible. I hate doing this. It's I don't sound that good. Third time, oh, God, it's not that bad. Fourth time, it's like, it's all right. Fifth time, you're doing this. Damn, I'm sounding pretty good. Guess what's happening? You're becoming comfortable. And when you become comfortable, you gain confidence. That's the key right there. That's the strategy for script mastery. It's as simple as that. The hardest thing is actually doing this 5 times. Most people will bail out. But when they do that, see, and the significance here is they get to hear themselves getting better. And that's when the mind shift starts to take to the minds and the perception of this activity starts to shift in your mind. It's like, maybe I can do this. That's the significance of that strategy right there.
And I would agree also the role playing as well. So I used to, for 10 years straight, I used to role play with 5 different people once a week, a different person around the country. And every month I would change it up because I was trained through the Mike Ferry system as well. Yep. And I'd go to all the events and the training. You'd meet people and you'd be able to go network with these people and you meet some amazing people and you're able to start role playing with them. But the importance of role playing every single day, every morning was crucial. We knew the scripts. We didn't know. I mean, you don't even think about scripts. You don't even have to look at the scripts. You're working on objections or you're out there prospecting every day and you're getting these things, these real live objections that you think, oh, I could have handled that better. And then you run it across or, with your role play partner. And then you start working on those and you just get better and better and better and better. And before you know it, you're just a ninja.
Mm-hmm. Greg, I love the script certified. Tell us more. I love that little process. What else goes on your script certification?
Yeah, basically you would get a script book. Okay, our script book. You would, I'd give that to you, or we would give that to you when you came to the company, and then let's assume for a moment that you want to make some calls, like you want to build a business, based on generating some listings, and you're going to have to make some calls to do so. Then you basically cannot, start making outbound calls until you can stand up and demonstrate that you know those scripts. So you would go to one of the managers within our company, and you would stand up and get script certified, which would be you literally standing up and demonstrating to this person that you can chant the scripts. It's just like that. And then we say, okay, you've got script certified. So, we understand there's 3 phases to script mastery. There's the memorization, there's the internalization, and then there's the personalization. So what we want to do is we just want to, from a script certification standpoint, we're wanting to make sure that they get through the memorization phase. The memorization is just, I know the script. The internalization phase is where you kind of understand, like, well, why does Mike Ferry's script say, will you cut your commission? No. Any other questions? Well, I don't like to say that. That sounds terrible. Well, it sounds terrible when you don't understand why we say no. Any other questions? The reason why we say no. Any other questions? Because at least 50% of the time when somebody asks you to cut the commission, it's actually a question. It's not an objection. And so if you answer it as if it was a question and you say, no, is there any other questions? Then they just move on half the time. So we don't want you to answer every question as if it's an objection, or else you'll turn those questions into objections.
Yeah. And then you
That's
go on
the
the
internalization phase. It's like, you've got to understand, why did it say no? Any other questions? So you got to memorize it. No. Any other questions? You got to internalize it, understanding why you're saying no. Any other questions? And then the third phase is personalization, which you're like, Jeff, I really appreciate the question. I can't do that. Any other questions? Like, that might be how I would say it, so now your personality comes out, so it doesn't sound canned. But script certification is getting through memorization phase.
Personalization is saying it where it doesn't feel canned. This is good.
Yeah. So does that make sense, right? So in order to get to personalization, you have to have the confidence of understanding there is a method, there's a reason of why you're saying what you're saying.
Cool. Let's get one question here. John has a question. Is 8 to 11 a.m. the best time to prospect, or about 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.? Just wondering when's the best time to make the calls?
Yeah. If you could call from, 5 to 7 p.m., it'd probably be the best time. But just remember, you've got to do that 220 straight days. So then if you've got any children or hobbies, you can throw them away because you'll never see them. So if we want to talk about, like, what's the best time, if you wanted to look at like answer rates and things like that, 8 to 11 won't be the best time. But if we then throw in, I get this question all the time, right? And so I hope people will slow this recording down and really listen to the answer. I could agree that the evening would be better. But what will happen is I'm going to get that call. Like this evening, I will be at a tennis match at 5, and then I'm going to leave that tennis match at 5:50 to get my son to basketball practice from 6 to 7:30. So for me to prospect today from 5 to 7:30, I have to give up my the event with my daughter and my son. Okay, so maybe I would do that today. But am I going to do that every day, 5 days a week? Am I going to really miss out on that? So I'm going to be inconsistent in the evenings. So when you start to say, well, the numbers are really good, but I don't show up that often, then the numbers overall are not going to be that good. Versus 8 to 11, my kids are at school. So I'm not getting the, hey, from my friend, hey, let's go on the boat at 8 in the morning. No, I don't get that call. I'm going to get that call at 4 or 3 in the afternoon, not at 8 in the morning. I'm not going to get I've got to go to the dance recital at 8 in the morning. So at 8 to 11, I actually can show up every day. So when you look at the compound effect of me showing up every day undistracted, though that the quality of the conversion of pickups and dials to contacts might be a little bit lower, it's the consistency of every day doing that activity that's going to make 8 to 11 the superior time to do this activity.
Good.
I hope that I think that I explained that the way that I want to, but that's a significant one.
Yeah, that was great. That's a great question. And that's the importance of, if you have a higher goal, do the 8 to 11. And then the really top producing agents in Greg's office, they're doing 1 evening or 2 evenings a night or all day prospecting a certain day. Yeah. Take it from there. Find something that works for you that you can consistently say, hey, I am going to be able to do this 220 days out of the year. That's basically a work year.
Yes,
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and so some people could hear what you just said and said, okay, well, so there's a point where I can only make so many contacts from 8 to 11. So does that mean every year that I want to grow my goal, then I have to add another hour to prospecting? No, that's actually not correct. There's two ways from a prospecting standpoint to actually reach a higher goal. And that is, number one, prospect more. That's what, the newer agents will do. They'll prospect more. The skilled agents that want to continue to increase their business but not prospect more have to improve their ratios. Their contact to appointment ratio has to get better. So like if you know your numbers and you look, gosh, I had to make 25 or 55 contacts to get an appointment. Well, once I know that ratio, then let's set a goal to make that ratio 35 contacts to get an appointment. So we need to role play, practice our scripts and whatnot, ask better questions in order to improve that ratio. When I was still full-time selling, which has been a while, my ratio was 1 appointment every 3 contacts. Every 3. So I only had to make 10 contacts to set 3 appointments in a day. Now, guess who all those 10 contacts were? All I had to do is get 10 expireds on the phone and I'd have 3 appointments. Awesome. So I honed in my skill set so much. So I didn't have to actually prospect more in time. I actually could prospect less and still grow my business, but I had to focus on my skills.
Amazing. All right. I think we're running up out of time. We can go on and on. We're going to do future hangouts with Greg. I think we're going to be we'll start back up in August. Next month, we're doing one with Lisa Chinati. July is 4th of July, that first week, but we're going to be back here August 8th, or not August 8th, the first week of August, the first Thursday of August with Greg. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Greg, for all your insights. We really appreciate it. And thanks, Frank.
Always.
See you guys next time.